Good afternoon to you, Mark Sutton of HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video discussion on the upcoming hurricane season. It's not quite June 1st yet, but we're getting there. And in the Eastern Pacific season, that area begins its season on the 15th of May, and that's just 6 short days away. So let's take a look at what's going on out there, things that may shape each upcoming basin's season. And part of that is the sea surface temperature anomalies or departures from normal. This valid today, May the 9th, 2016. And a couple things to point out here. You see this blue ribbon of colder than normal water temperature profile showing up in the equatorial Pacific. Meanwhile, north of there, still pretty warm compared to normal. And then a few speckles of cold intermingled in with the warmth farther to the north from there, between, let's say, the Baja and Hawaii. Now, this region in the Eastern Pacific, that season begins on the 15th of May, and it probably will be a fairly busy season overall. Not too much indication that it would be a below normal season. And so you folks here along the Central American and Mexican coastline, up through the Baja, and then even the Southwest United States, need to start paying attention because your season is about to begin. Sometimes these storms will develop and move on out into the open waters of the East Pacific and fade away. Sometimes they will recurve into Mexico, like we saw last year with powerful Hurricane Patricia, and occasionally they work their way up farther to the north from there, even working their moisture into parts of the desert Southwest and even extreme Southern California. It's rare, but it does happen. Meanwhile, in the Atlantic Basin, temperatures continue to warm above normal in what we call the main development region through here, and the rest of the basin still, for the most part, running a little bit above the long-term average. But it's this area right through here, the main development region, warming up above where it typically is, and we can zoom in on it here. You see it, with the exception of just a very small amount of area right off the coast of Africa, all this region through here is quite a bit warmer than it should be. Looking at the scale here, maybe 3/4 to 1.5 degrees Celsius above average. Meanwhile, beyond that, up here near the Iberian Peninsula and the North Atlantic, this is the Azores Islands, for example. Here is Portugal and Spain, and the northwest coast of Africa, the water temperature is cooling. However, if we go and look at the changes from, let's say, and this is a really neat tool that we have, we can look at a specific period of time. So if you look at May the 4th and you subtract the difference between April the 6th and those anomalies, what do you get? Well, again, everything on the right-hand side of the scale is warmer than normal, and anything on the left-hand side is colder than normal. And we see a couple of things that are interesting. The Pacific cooling, which we expect. But here's that main development region area, the tropical Atlantic, warmer, as you can see down here. Over the last few weeks, it has warmed a couple of degrees Celsius. But I think very important to note the North Atlantic warming compared to the last few weeks. It's not cooled, it has warmed up, and in some instances you see in here, this bullseye, 1.5 degrees to 2 degrees Celsius. So that's interesting because there's been a lot of talk that the cold North Atlantic up here could influence the hurricane season for the Atlantic, and if this is warming and moderating, then things could be a little busier than perhaps were earlier thought. We can talk more about that once we get into the Atlantic season in June. In the subsurface arena, the La Nina starting to take shape here. Very cold water compared to where it should be in the subsurface. This is the Eastern Pacific over here on the right-hand side. This would be the Western Pacific, the surface of the ocean up here at the top, and several hundred meters deep below. So this is kind of like a slice of the ocean profile, and you have these deep blues showing up, and eventually this will spread around to the surface, and we will have a full-blown La Nina setting in more than likely by August and September. Gulf of Mexico sea surface temperatures, the actual temperatures, and this will be one of the places we start to look once we get into June. They're warming up. The 26 degrees Celsius line, which is a roughly 79.5 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about what you need for tropical development, is right there. Anything south of that is ready for hurricane activity, sea surface temperature wise. And so you see we still have a little ways to go for the rest of the Gulf to warm up, but it certainly is getting there. Then the Western Atlantic Basin Interesting that the 26 Celsius line coming up right through here in the Gulf Stream, not far at all off the North Carolina Outer Banks. Still pretty cold up here off New England, as you might expect. Sea surface temperatures there 8 and 9 degrees Celsius, so still under 50 degrees Fahrenheit. I am not getting in any water that is like that, that's for darn sure. So again, just as a reminder, this period coming up after today, May 10th through the 20th, we have had development areas over the past 100+ years in the Eastern Pacific, 8 of them to be exact. And we've also had a few areas here in the Atlantic Basin during that same time frame. So keep that in mind. And really the main point of today's discussion, anywhere along this area up through the Baja, your season is about to begin. Of course, the Atlantic Basin a couple of weeks after that. I don't see anything in the long-range models yet to be concerned with in the Eastern Pacific nor in the Atlantic Basin. But it's not unusual to have activity to develop between May 15th and June 1st in the Eastern Pacific. And when and if something does happen, well, I'll discuss that right here. And you can watch and learn and hopefully be ready for it if you need to be via Hurricane Pro and HD. So there you go, the convenience of your app. All right, well, that's it from me for today. Again, I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. And, of course, for Hurricane Pro and HD, I'll be back on May 15th as the Eastern Pacific hurricane season begins.